Da, 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 da,
We're live.
da. All right, it's time for our monthly. Yeah, monthly. I was trying to think of a fancy word, but it's just monthly. Our monthly second week of the month. Yeah, second week of the month. Monday the 13th, day of accessibility chats. So we've been sort of on a keyboard kick lately, so we're gonna continue along that one for a little bit. We just want to make sure to get all the keyboard stuff right. And Xamarin Forms was notoriously troublesome with keyboards, so we're going to continue in that along that vector to talk about some of the keyboard additions that we've made and accessibility additions we've made in the past month. And then Rachel's going to sort of talk about just some learnings that she's gathered from, hey, look at that. iOS is launching. Let's see if it actually if it launches. Ha ha ha. All right, there we go. That's a sneak peek of something exciting if this launches. All right, so our first thing we want to chat about. So this was part of the Xamarin Community Toolkit. We just hadn't had a chance to migrate it over yet. We get some shout outs. Shout out to Pedro. Shout out to Jose Silva. Shout outs to the Stream Elements bot, which is running. Yeah, I think that covers it. Hello there. All right. If anybody has any questions, doesn't even have to be about what we're talking about. Has to be Maui related though, so I guess it has to be within a framework of what we're talking. Just throw them into the chat. We'll try the best to answer said questions. But yeah, so all right. Talking about semantic order view. Let's see, did Android launch? Oh, there it goes. It's launching. So exciting. All right. So we are talking about semantic order view. So this was our stand-in replacement of the tab index implementation on Xamarin Forms, which was also notoriously broken. And this implementation adheres much better to accessibility standards on iOS and Android to sort of provide a less overall broken experience. I think Rachel's going to demo, but the basic idea is that you can set up a container and then you can influence the ordering of said container. So you'll notice this goes down here first, up here, down here, which is oh, I'm not showing my screen. Holy crap.
Yes,
all right, there we
yes.
go. What? All right, that was fun. Were you guys imagining it, picturing it? We were just doing a visualization exercise there. All right. Now we're in it. Thank you, Pedro. I don't know what we would do without Pedro half the time, man. My streams would just be me like talking to a wall. All right. Hello, Cesar Cruz. Yeah. All right. Let's see. What do we have? We had one quick question. I don't know if somebody answered. Jose Silva, could you talk more about accessibility office hours? Yeah. So we sort of just named it office hours. So the idea is just trying to engage with the community about accessibility. So ways to sort of teach things that we have learned, different efforts that we're giving sort of in the accessibility arena, but we also sort of run it like an office hours concept. So like if you have questions, feel free to tweet it, Rachel or I, even outside of the office hours, and we can sort of add it to a queue of things to if there's something accessibility related that you've yeah, I see Rachel sort of dropped a note in there. If there's anything accessibility related you want to chat about, let us know. And we can answer to the best of our ability. If there's something that we don't know the answer to, we will jot it down and ask some more informed folks, and then we will all learn. So yeah, that is sort of the accessibility office hours. So it's accessibility, it's office hours / Rachel and I just talk about stuff if we don't have questions. It's how we kind of have it working. So yeah. All right, so yeah, we added the semantic order view into the toolkit, and it's out. I think it's released. Actually, I don't know if it's released. It got merged into main. Pedro can probably confirm if it's actually been released or not. I'm not sure. I know it was merged in, so it should be either released or released soon. But yeah, the basic idea is that you can modify, and you typically don't want to do this, but for cases where you might need to sort of subtly modify the, I'm trying to find the sample here. Where is the sample? This is the generated page. Yeah, where you want to modify sort of the ordering of the, where you want to sort of modify the ordering of the page of the elements in the view. You can use a semantic order view to influence those on sort of a smaller scale. There we go, semantic order view. All right, I eventually talked until I arrived at it. So the idea is that it's just a container here, and then on the back of it, you can sort of specify the view order. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and you'll notice that these views here are first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Typically, you don't want to go too crazy with this. It's more about if there's just sort of subtle orders to change, like maybe if you're going left to right on some, like, top to bottom for like a small set of views or something of that nature. Rachel, you did a blog about this, didn't you? Kind of about ordering. Yeah. Okay. Maybe if you have a link in there, you can. All right. Maybe if you have a link in there, you can sort of drop it if you have a reference.
Yeah, absolutely.
That kind of talks about the idea. So yeah, so this we got merged in. We're really excited for the MAUI stuff. It also takes advantage of tab index on the WinUI side. And then using sort of some of the more proper sort of accessibility parts on iOS. So yeah, semantic order view. That if you're jonesing for some tab index behavior, that's how that works. So it doesn't tie into keyboard yet on Android or iOS. No, Android it does, I think, actually. iOS, I think it does, because iOS maps accessibility kind of to keyboard stuff. We can kind of give that a test. I think iOS will sort of end up following that path, whereas Android has a much more broken out concept of your keyboard ordering and your accessibility ordering. So yeah, so that's semantic order view. We're excited about that one. Community Toolkit's been super helpful for helping us add APIs to kind of get them in users' hands sooner. One that I'm really excited about that we're adding, and so we're just sort of getting all the APIs buttoned up on here, is the keyboard extensions. So one of the lacking features of Forms has always been lack of keyboard interactions. So sort of the inability to just hide and show the keyboard, which sort of leads to a number of sort of hacks, because Forms sort of tries to assume when you want the keyboard to show. So you get like this weird behavior where Forms is trying to do the keyboard stuff, but you're also trying to do the keyboard stuff. And then it makes it really hard to even sort of then tune how you want the keyboard to work, because every app always kind of has these different keyboard interactions. Like, it's interesting, once you start analyzing the keyboard interactions, you'll see like some chat programs, when you scroll, it closes it. Some of them don't. Some of them, when you tap different elements, it closes them. Some of them it doesn't. So it's a very sort of just specific how you've decided to do your code. So ideally, we just want to give users the power to do what they want. So we're adding these keyboard extensions into the MAUI, the community toolkit. We will most likely also move these over to MAUI core as well. Ideally, we'll get those in Net 8, but if for some reason we do not, then they are in the community toolkit for you to love and to use. So the idea here is it's fairly basic. There's just 2 APIs right now. We'll probably end up extending these to maybe have some more events that you can kind of wire into. But the whole idea is show keyboard and hide keyboard. And one thing I kind of want to note here as well is that for the show keyboard and the hide keyboard APIs, you have to specify a target view. So this is sort of those things you have to like think about. So if like in a mobile application, just showing the keyboard without a target concept makes no sense. So pretty much all the APIs, even at the platform label, require you to have like a target view to indicate who's the target of said action. So yeah, this is a pretty basic API. I don't have anything. Oh wait, I think I actually do. Here it is. I did have running. All right, pretty exciting. Ooh, show keyboard. Wait for it. Hide keyboard. Pretty exciting, isn't it? Ooh. So that's the basic ideas. And one of the is this? Oh, you can't really see the text on here. All right, yeah. So this is basically just showing and hiding the keyboard. Yeah, so that'll be nice because that kind of gives users the power to sort of do what they want to be able to do. How about Siri integration for accessibility purposes so users can integrate with voice? That's I haven't played with that one too. That is definitely would be an interesting vector to explore a bit more. I would be curious along those lines where have you messed with that literally everything as far as hooking into Siri and tying that into your apps? I know Rachel and I recently saw some demos where people were using I forget, they were using sort of different AI APIs, and they were using different things within Visual Studio to do sort of talkback things. So they could even interact like with Git through the talkback. Like you could run the blame even through it. Like you could talk to your computer and say, okay, who made these changes, or various things like that, or you know, insert these things to quicken the interaction with your IDE. I haven't played with that as far as integrating your app into Siri or TalkBack, but that would definitely be an interesting thing to look at. So I would be curious if you've had experience doing that, sort of providing those hooks. I'm going to make a note to Siri and TalkBack for accessibility interactions. Yeah, so those are kind of the interesting points, things that we haven't really maybe thought about to kind of look at and do samples. So that would even be kind of a fun topic for one of our office hours. Yeah. Boom. All right. So that's the basics on the show keyboard front. I think those are most of the community toolkit stuff. Yeah. I don't think I had other notes on there with the toolkit. Some other areas that we have kind of some fun things coming with keyboard interactions. I know this is a big one. This is one that we're also going to get over to the community toolkit. So I know one of the things in Android, one of the features in Android was that if you clicked on a, oh, wait, that's not Android, that's iOS. That's not helpful. One of the features on Android was that if you had an entry selected, you could sort of tap off and it would close the view. Yeah, so one thing I'd like to note is that on some level, this behavior doesn't make sense to me. As far as users who want this, I think there's contexts where it makes sense, but like there's pretty much, like I've never found a platform app that works like this. Typically, anytime you tap off of a keyboard to close the keyboard, it's based on some sort of modified focus. So for example, any app where the keyboard automatically closes, it closes if the user starts to scroll or if they click the text or things of that nature. So this was actually one of the behaviors that we removed from MAUI because it's kind of a non-standard behavior. And the way that it was implemented in Forms, like super broke accessibility, because even if you look on, this is even an interesting one, because if you look on Stack Overflow and you look up the post about being able to tap off to close the keyboard, the #1 answer on there says to make the page clickable, and that makes the app completely inaccessible, which is interesting because that's like the highest voted answer. So I did an implementation here that we're going to sort of copy over to MAUI Toolkit, which is basically it's overriding on Android just sort of through the dispatch touch events. That way it doesn't affect accessibility, but it lets you sort of modify the keyboard. So that's kind of the stuff that we're hoping the keyboard manager APIs will help with, is being able to provide your own scenarios. So for example, scrolling to close the keyboard makes sense, right? So you could attach to like the scroll view, and if the user has scrolled beyond some sort of delta point, you could then close the keyboard. Just kind of implement those things yourself. And then at that point, it's not to interpret what you're doing. Yeah. So interrupt me at any point, Rachel, if there's any sort of questions to answer. It looks like the iOS app just stopped running. Hopefully it's kind of still running. Yeah. So that's the, oh, no active connections. All right. Let's see if it runs the app. Yes, no?
We do have a couple of questions coming in our chat in the meantime.
Okay.
Another lab asked, any update on the issue with MAUI Blazor apps on the 16.2 iOS simulator?
I haven't seen that issue. If you have a link for it.
Yeah, feel free to drop a link to that issue in the chat.
Yeah.
And if there isn't one, you can open one and share that. Okay, we got a link. That was fast.
All right, perfect. So let's see. Real quick. Yeah. Yes, that was the iOS one. Alan Ritchie sort of had, what did Alan Ritchie say? Alan Ritchie's a good source of info. Siri and Hey Google Intents are not really UI based. You can use speech to text apps. Yeah, speech to text apps on each platform. So that's where I would be curious if there was ways to sort of build on top of that with your app. Like if there's any sort of, because I know like with keyboards, you can add like shortcut keys to things, which help users. So like when they hit the Windows key, it'll show like a little letter showing you how to quickly go between things. A lot of the times, if you just don't make your app hostile, the platform features like Siri and VoiceOver and those things will a lot of times just work within the construct. But I am curious if there are ways you can tune your app for Siri, like if there's additional hints and perspectives that you can give it. So yeah, I would be curious about that. So I know there was let's see. I was just looking up real quick. Actually, I'll just do that once Rachel's talking. Another lab. I will look that up when Rachel's talking, just so you're not all just staring at me Googling something.
Yeah, we'll be sure to take a look and follow up on that issue.
Is there a built-in MAUI method? I don't know if there's a public one. We have APIs. Let me see. Did we make any of those public? Okay, I don't see them. Yeah, we have APIs. We should probably look at making those public. But if you looked at our source code, there's some Git platform location APIs that you can use. But right now, there's not really anything public to get the location on the screen. Let me make a note on that one too, real quick. I'm just making notes. So respond to issue, source code for screen location APIs. All right, I can pop those in. That's actually kind of an interesting one. I'll put those inside my Shane repository here. Rachel, I don't know if you want to, do you have a link to that by chance? My repository with some areas where I do playground stuff.
I can grab it. The Chandelier samples?
Yeah, just kind of pop that in there. So I try to put as many like samples in there that people can kind of play with and mess with to sort of grab some of those concepts. So yeah. All right. I don't know. Is there anything I've missed, Rachel? Kind of going through. Can you change the keyboard language on focus? For example, if you have Arabic person's name text box and English person's names text box. That one I'm not sure about. I
Yeah.
would think, let's see, change the locale of the text box. That would be a, I feel like, wait, hold on. All right. My headphones are doing that thing where they tell me I need to plug them in. So one sec. And then like everything goes silent. All right. That one I'd have to look up. I don't know. I don't feel like
Mhm.
you could set the locale on text box, but possibly because a lot of times the locale is very OS based
Mhm.
as far as like modifying the OS yourself. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's usually something that aligns with your device settings. But I'm also
yeah,
curious if this is a specific scenario that you're looking to do because I'm not sure if that would be the most accessible experience to change the language when you focus. Because when you focus on a text input control, that'll have the keyboard pop up with whatever the um, user's device settings align with. And to change that up on them might not be, uh,
yeah. Let's see.
yeah.
According to random Stack Flow Overflow posts, you can't change it on iOS at least. iOS doesn't give you a lot of control to change those, so I would be surprised if they did give you the ability to change those. That's one of those things that's very surprising to the user. So my guess would be that you wouldn't be able to change something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Switch the language. I'm guessing no. My guess would be no, but don't quote me. I know because anytime we check different languages, we always do it through the operating system. Like iOS is really interesting too, because the only way to change the RTL on a app is to change the locale of the entire device. So yeah, my guess is that you wouldn't be able to switch the you'd I think you the way you would I guess it kind of depends what you're trying to switch there. You can set different things to RTL. I know, like we have settings in Maui where you can set an entire app to RTL. So you could make
Mm-hmm.
an application act RTL, even though the language might be. You might be able to set up font sets, but yeah, that one I'm guessing not, but I made a note to kind of look that up because I'm curious about that one too. Change the locale of the text box. All right.
Yeah, good questions. Keep them coming.
Yeah, these are good. These are the things we don't really think about. So that's the other point of office hours. Figure out what we don't know that figure out we don't know. So let's see. The other exciting thing that's coming. So there's a PR I'm reviewing. Oh, look at that. It's Pi o'clock on the day before Pi.
Amazing.
It's no longer Pi o'clock. It's a less accurate estimate of Pi o'clock. All right.
Only in your time zone.
All right. Let's see. So one thing that we have a PR for. Watch this. If you notice on iOS, oh look at that. What happened, Rachel? What did you notice happened?
The keyboard popped up on focus.
Ooh, look at that. And
Wait,
the
what are you
text box.
doing? Where's your mouse? Are you scrolling or tapping
I'm just
the?
I'm just clicking on it.
Mm,
So this is one of the top items in Maui right now is scrolling up the text when you open the keyboard. So we have a PR that TJ's been working on, which we're really excited about. And it's actually kind of makes the behavior even better than Forms. In Forms, the entry would only work in if you were inside a scroll view. If you weren't inside a scroll view, it wouldn't pop up. But now it works outside of a scroll view. It also works inside a collection view. And no, it works inside a list view, and it didn't work on no, it works in a collection view, but it didn't work in collection view in Forms. So yeah, a lot of the behavior there has been sort of generalized and set up. So yeah, isn't that cool? And
beautiful.
this is actually in my Chandler examples. It's kind of a secret, so don't tell anybody. You only get the secret if you're on the call, because I didn't tweet about it yet because we haven't made it official. But if you pull down in Chandler samples, I actually have a behavior you can grab. This is the kind of the cool thing about Maui too, is how fun it is to sort of tie things together. So basically, TJ did this great job of putting the keyboard auto manager scroll into this big static class. And then you can just tap into that real easily through our builder patterns. So you just sort of add it on there, and there it is, builder auto scroll. Dun, da, 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 and then you get this cool auto scroll behavior. So yeah.
Yay.
So that'll be coming to a PR near you soon. Once we have the PR all fixed, then I'll sort of tweet about that. If people want to work around it temporarily, they can kind of go into here and play with it, and get kind of some of that behavior. So pretty excited about that one. Let's see. Were there any other notes for me before going over to you? Keyboard navigation, semantic overview, tabbing. Yeah, I think that's good. Keyboard height property. That's, yeah. So the keyboard manager stuff, that's definitely a starting point. So that's a big reason why we're putting the keyboard manager stuff in the keyboard extensions inside the Maui Community Toolkit, is because it's cool to be able to get like an active conversation going as well, and people testing it and seeing what parts of it work out. How much you can interact with the keyboards kind of changes between. iOS doesn't give you a lot of control over the keyboards, because iOS really wants you to maintain a stable interaction with the users. So you don't get as many things that you can do there. But yeah, things like keyboard height, events we're going to add into the keyboard at some point, so you can maybe get an event when the keyboard opens. And whatever other aspects of sort of the soft input keyboard that you can do. Like I think Android's the only platform where you can even sort of move the keyboard with the scroll, whereas like on iOS you can really only open or close it, if I'm remembering correctly how that on that one works. So yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, feel free to open issues also for any proposals you have with the scenarios in which you are using or wanting to use these properties and new behaviors, so we know what to keep on our radar for what's next.
Yeah, let's see. I was sort of looking around at changing localization. Yeah, I think you can change localization sort of at a... Oh, man, they're using swizzling. This blog has swizzling. Abort.
Can't
All right. You have to swizzle. Abort. All right. So I think that covers most of the stuff I was reading through. And then Rachel, if you want to sort of take over at this point.
Yeah.
Let me know. I will unshare my screen. Wait, that's me. I don't want to remove me. All right, there we go. Remove that. And
amazing. All right. I'm going to share my screen. And going to switch windows. Are you seeing this? Can you see me, Shane?
Yes, okay. I can see it.
Okay, amazing.
Maybe just zoom in just a little bit.
Yeah, so just going back to the semantic order view PR that Shane was talking about in Maui Community Toolkit.
There we go.
The PR here, number 1011 in Maui Community Toolkit. And we also have the code pulled up here. So we have an example here where basically the way you use it is I do not know how to increase. Okay. Ooh, it's kind of hard to see. But we have this semantic order view, this new view, and you would wrap the controls that you want to order using the semantic order view. So here we have a vertical stack layout with a couple of labels and buttons. And normally, and in most situations, what we would want to happen is to not use a semantic order view, honestly. We would just want the controls to be read aloud in the order that we've programmed them in the order that they're visually appearing on the screen. And we would want all of these orders to be aligned. And that would also affect the screen reader order. But there are some unique scenarios in which the order in which we want the screen reader to announce things might not exactly line up with the way that we are coding them. And those situations might be, for example, if we have grouped views or custom views where there are layers of controls. So as I mentioned, the way you use it is by using the semantic order view and then putting the layout within it with the controls. And then in your C# code, you would create a list and assign that to the view order of the semantic order view. And you can call on, just list out the controls by using the names that are assigned to those different controls. So here we have conveniently called them first, second, third, fourth, fifth. And you can see here the labels and buttons are called in the order we coded them are second, third, fourth, fifth, first. So you can see here in our Android device, we have the label, which is second, the button, which is third, the label, which is fourth, and the button fifth, and the button first. So as I mentioned before, this is not a great ordering, but for demonstration purposes, this is how it works. And with the semantic order view, we can have it read out in the actual order we want it to be read aloud. So I'm going to turn on TalkBack, which is the default screen reader for Android.
TalkBack on. Community Toolkit. P.
Okay.
88%. Accessibility. Slider.
Can you hear
Music
that okay?
volume set.
I can hear it. Sounds good.
Okay, amazing. So we have all these
86%.
things on the page.
Double tap to activate.
And the other things that are not in the semantic order view will just be read aloud in the order you see it in. And then for the semantic order view, it'll be read aloud in the order in which we ordered them by using the semantic order view. Lots of orders. All right, so I'm going to use one finger to just swipe right, and that'll take us to what is next.
Semantic order view. Semantic order view allows developers to indicate the focus order of visible controls when a user is navigating via TalkBack, Android, VoiceOver, iOS, or Narrator Windows.
And then I'm going to swipe right again.
This button is not included in the semantic order view button.
All right.
Double tap to activate.
So since the button wasn't included, we got that first. And now we're going to go to the semantic order
Semantic
view.
order view.
And from here, it should take us to the the button at the very bottom, which we've put first in our list.
This button text is read first by TalkBack, VoiceOver, Narrator button.
And now we'll
double tap to activate.
All the way up to the top of the semantic order view, we have the label, which we put second.
This label text is read second by TalkBack, VoiceOver, Narrator.
And then third to the button right below it.
This button text is read third by TalkBack, VoiceOver, Narrator button.
And then fourth,
double tap to activate.
And fifth to the label and button right below this one.
This label text is read fourth by TalkBack, VoiceOver, Narrator. This button text is read fifth by TalkBack, VoiceOver, Narrator button.
So yeah,
double TalkBack on.
That's the semantic order view in action. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we move on to other things, Shane?
No, I think that, am I unmuted? Yeah, okay. I think that covers it.
Awesome. Yeah, so go check out semantic order view. I think Pedro mentioned it is out. So you can use this in your Maui apps today. And then as Shane mentioned before, I have a blog post about meaningful content ordering. So the gist of it is that it emphasizes the importance of your visual order, your source code order, and also your screen reader semantic order, and making sure that all three of those are aligned, because it's very easy to make those three things differ, which is confusing to our users. So if you haven't checked out this blog post, shameless plug here, check it out. There's also this sample, which is a pretty cool way of showing you how confusing it can be when your source code order is different from your visual order. This is not a C# sample SAT, it's HTML, CSS, but the HTML here, you can see it says, was the cat fat? Is the order in which these divs are coded, but visually it appears as the cat was fat rather than was the cat fat. And what happens when we use keyboard navigation in this case is that it'll follow the programmatic order rather than the visual order. So visually it gets picked up as the cat was fat, but for keyboard first users, when I press tab, you'll see it goes first to was, and then the, and then cat, and then fat, which is not at all the order in which it's appearing. So this is just a quick, funny example showing how important it is to make sure your visual source and screen semantic orders are all in line. And more on the importance of having good keyboard navigation for keyboard accessibility, I wanted to pull up my recipes app. So I have here my recipes app in Windows, and the importance of keyboard accessibility and keyboard navigation, as Shane mentioned before, is making sure that our app users have full control over their app, no matter what input modality they're using. So most folks are used to navigating their apps by, clicking through them, or if you're on mobile, tapping them. But it's really important to be able to support all of these interactions through just your keyboard as well. So here you can see I just pressed on, I think, dessert. So if I want to do the same thing with just using my keyboard, I would press the tab key to tab through the different buttons. So I'm on breakfast, then I'm on lunch, then I'm on dinner, then I'm on snack, and then I'm on dessert. And then I can press enter here to navigate to the page. And I don't know if there's something wrong with my connection, because I guess we can't find any dessert recipes at the moment. You can see that,
Yeah, it's 3:30. No desserts. No
Yeah.
desserts until 8.
With keyboard or clicking through, we don't have dessert recipes. So same behavior. So yeah, and another cool thing with MAUI is that because of the nature of us being a cross-platform framework, we have a lot of custom controls. And I know a lot of you developers are also creating custom controls using our framework too. And the important thing there is to make sure that your custom controls are also accessible, and that means also keyboard accessible, of course. So one example of that is with our checkboxes on iOS, and let me see if I can find an example. So I don't have iOS running right now, but checkbox is an example of a custom control, which means that if we don't intentionally make sure that it is accessible and keyboard accessible, it won't be. So on our team, we made sure that we were extra conscious of those situations in order to make them accessible. But just more examples on keyboard accessibility here. You can see I can tab through the checkboxes, and I can press space to interact with them and to check and uncheck the checkboxes. So yeah, cool stuff. Yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to highlight with recipes and keyboard navigation today. Was there anything in the chat, Shane, or anything you had in mind?
No, not currently. I
Cool.
was sort of deep diving around some of the questions. Let's see. I don't know this AI thing on the Blazor app. I hadn't seen that. That's interesting. That was logged in February 2nd. Yeah, it's interesting there hasn't been much notes about that one. I'm curious. I don't know. I'll ask. Just sort of get that one kicked back up.
Yeah. Feel free to also thumbs up the issue.
Yeah. So then
if
that
it's
sort of helps us.
you know.
Yeah, it helps us kind of know people are having it. The custom keyboard one is an interesting question, especially all the questions around keyboards. I was sort of diving around what you could do with the interactions. There seems to be conflicting opinions on how you could sort of modify the keyboard on iOS. So I'm curious to kind of try that myself. It looks like you can set up a custom keyboard in iOS. So in theory, you can build like a custom keyboard, and then with that keyboard, you can kind of modify some of the heights and widths and whatnot. So that might be sort of a very highly customized scenario. I haven't seen anything about modifying the system keyboard. You might be able to sort of modify some of the constraints, but I don't know, that's a fun topic. So that'd be kind of neat to sort of deep dive around different ways you can interact with the soft input keyboard as we sort of build through these APIs. So yeah, and then I don't know if Coding Cat, I posted a link to an API you can search for in our repository that has like an implementation, because I saw you said you were iterating the tree. If you search our repository for Git platform view bounds, you'll see an implementation for that on each platform that uses platform APIs to pull those absolute locations out. So it's not having to sort of depend on iterating through the controls. Yeah, and then with anything, just sort of log additional issues to see if there's anything, other aspects you want to add. So if there's something else you want for the keyboard, log a discussion on the Maui Community Toolkit about the feature that you're looking for with the keyboard APIs, and then we can sort of discuss how that would sort of help you out. Yeah, I think that sort of kind of touches through all the different issues. So to the notes, yeah, we're just, working through. Oh, did you talk about your focus one yet, Rachel? Some of the focus stuff, or the sorry, I was kind of Googling the one on Android where it'll sort of open up the keyboard.
No, I have
focus?
not.
Not yet? Okay.
No.
All right. Well, if you want to post an issue in there. So one of the other issues we've been seeing on Android is calling focus on an entry doesn't open up the keyboard. So we have a PR percolating for that one, so that if you call focus on like an entry or an editor or a search box, it'll open up the keyboard, which will sort of help the behavior be a little more consistent between iOS. Yeah. Switching the emojis on the keyboard. I wonder about, that's an interesting one too. Switching, that's kind of one where I think you're going to start having to go into custom keyboard mode, like building a custom keyboard. But I would need to sort of check on that one because I haven't done a lot of keyboard customizations, but that's deep diving keyboard customizations would be a fun one. I don't think a lot of that would make its way into Maui core unless it was sort of super like, keyboard height, I think is useful. Opening and closing, some different aspects of interacting. But once you start getting down to very like the minute details of it, Community Toolkit would be kind of a fun place for some of those. Yeah, but maybe if there's a big enough use case for it, we could start pushing those discussions. So cool.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I think that sort of covers this set of things. If our timeline proves accurate, we should be doing our next one in the second week in April, but we'll tweet about it.
Yeah.
And then I think that's the notes. And then if there's anything you want us to cover, let us know. So if there's any other accessibility topics, if you're messing with accessibility, if you have any curiosities, etc., just ping us and we'll talk about it on chat, or we'll even sort of respond to you on Twitter about it. So yeah. Those are our notes. So thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you. Also, last thing, Earlier this week, Microsoft had their Ability Summit, which is our annual conference on accessibility. So if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend checking out the sessions. They've been recorded. So if you're interested in learning more about accessibility and the disability community in general, it's a great place to learn more. That's all.
Okay, so they were recorded. That was going to be another. Oh, look at that. There's play buttons
Yeah.
on everything. Yeah, go watch those. Those are great. There's a lot of really good talks about. That was some of the stuff I was talking about earlier, where people were using. There's some demos of people interacting with Visual Studio. The chat. Here it is. Inclusive development to empower every developer and their teams to achieve more.
I'm adding
Good.
you to
It has
screen.
Dante. Yeah, it has Dante and Roberta, who we've interacted with a good amount at Microsoft. The woman in the picture does a lot of coding, and she kind of shows how she does that given her her state with only one hand, and how the difficulties that she was having as being a developer, but she uses voiceover talk. That's not even what I don't know what to say it. Like talk back, like interactive communication, like talking to the IDE to do development and to check things, which causes her to be able to be much more effective and capable. So it's cool. It's a very informative set of tasks. So, and there's a lot of stuff through the generative AI, which is really interesting as well. So yeah. Fun stuff. So yeah, I think that's that. That's our March.
Yeah. We'll see you in April.
Yeah. See you in April. Farewell.
Bye.